He puts out 2020 Love Sounds, which is a whole album full of bangers. Then he decides once he's done being an R&B singer, he's going to put out this country album, which of course Black people felt like was a kind of cannibalizing a Black audience and Black music for profit, and then pivoting and saying, well, what I really wanted to do this whole time was be country. And then when that bombed, we felt like, okay, we're done with you. Like, now you want to come crawling back to the genre and the audience that made you popular? No, thank you. And moreover, he kept putting out all of these movies that I think some of them weren't so bad, but he just has been really struggling to get anyone to take him seriously as an actor. And he won't just do fun romantic comedies. Like, Justin, all we want from you is to do like that Best Friends movie with Mila Kunis over and over again. Like, I don't need you to be playing sci-fi superheroes just in time or whatever.
His most successful movie franchise or whatever has been Trolls. Apparently he does a voice in Trolls, and apparently he makes bank off of those, but I'm sure that's not his dream movie career, be a voiceover actor for like a DreamWorks thing. I mean, this must be controversial, but I think Justin Timberlake is talented, but I think if he was Black, he would be Bobby Valentino. Like, I think he would be very in the middle. Like, he would not be he would not be in the conversation as being the next Michael Jackson or Prince if he was Black. If he was Black, he would just be average, but talented, but mid-range, you know?
It's a dog dancing on hind legs thing. It's
exactly.
Everyone's, oh, look, the white boy can sing. That's, I mean, there are a lot of acts, and they can be talented people, but that's clear that, like...
Yeah, exactly. I'm not saying he's not talented. I don't want anybody to come at me and say, oh, you're just saying he's not talented because he's white. He is talented. I just think he's not at that iconic level he was being built to in talent.
Yeah, white people weren't interested in sitting around listening to, like, classic jazz until Amy Winehouse was doing it, right? Like, there's a bunch of Chrisette Michele type singers that are Black that are singing the exact same music as like Duffy or Meghan Trainor or whatever.
There was even a more direct analogy. That woman Sharon, the one with the Dap Kings, Sharon Jones, she was actually the original Black singer of the production group. So if you want a literal one-to-one comparison, like Sharon Jones worked with these guys called the Dap Kings, and she was the lead singer, and she's a great singer. Middle-aged Black woman. I think she worked in corrections, and she sang on the side, and she did these absolute bangers. And then the Dap Kings find Amy Winehouse and do the exact same kind of music with her. So it was literally the exact same producers, exact same everything. They just put this strung-out white woman who admittedly could sing very well. I'm not gonna.
Yeah, she was great. I really liked Amy Winehouse. I think it's terrible that she died. But like, there's a part of me that resents. Like, it's not their fault, but we live in a society that like, Elvis is all of these white singers into fame, and I do agree that he's got that sort of going on. I do want to ask you, since we've been going about an hour now, if we haven't actually touched on the Will Smith of it all, which I thought was going to be the preoccupation here, because no one seems to be able to quit him.
Yeah, I definitely want to talk about that. That's an interesting one.
All right, so for just brief background, for people who don't know, obviously the slap happened, but since then, both he and Jada have been in the media quite a bit, because the way it's been presented, the way Twitter is talking about this, is that Jada can't shut up about their relationship, and that she keeps making revelations about their lives that are disrespectful to her husband. And this all comes out of the interview they did years ago, pre-slap, in which she talked about how when their relationship was open, she had a relationship with this much younger man named August, and people felt like it was, again, disrespectful to Will Smith. And the narrative is very like, why is he still around for this? So the more recent revelation that she had, because she's writing a book now too, her book's coming out, all of this is the book tour episode, I guess.
Wait, real quick, she actually admitted that it was an open relationship?
They've both been, well, let's talk about some of these revelations.
Okay.
One, that they've been separated and at times living separately since 2016.
Yeah.
That they have never been divorced on paper, and that they plan to be together, but that they have definitely been separated all this time.
As time went on, there were different stages in my marriage where Will and I decided we were not together, where we didn't tell the public, right? Where I was actually thinking about divorcing, separating. I mean, there have been several of those, right? And where we've gone and lived our separate lives. So I think within that is where people might have thought that, oh, they must be having an open relationship. And we just didn't want people to know the dynamic of what was happening between us. We didn't think that that was anybody else's business. And so I think that that's where sometimes that confusion came in.
And so, again, it's caused people to say like, oh, this is so disrespectful. You had Will Smith out here getting in fistfights at the Oscars for you, and you like weren't even with him. They put together video montages of them on red carpets over the years, cut in a way that they think makes it look like she's never been interested in him, like turning away from his kisses or being the first to break the hug or things like this.
Yeah, and those are always funny because you can always cherry pick pictures. Like I'm sure there's pictures where the opposite happens, but no one's gonna post those, I'm sure. Yeah, no, that's a great question.
So what have you made out of all of this?
Okay, I kind of have a kind of different meta narrative about the whole thing, which is that I think with celebrities, a very important thing for celebrities is they want people to believe that they're just like middle class people with the same banal middle class morality and middle class viewpoints and ways of life and hobbies and whatever, just on a quantitatively different scale. Like I think people don't want to believe their celebrities are qualitatively different people with a qualitatively different lifestyle. They want to believe that, like remember the tabloids used to have this thing, celebrities are just like us, and it would just be like, she's shopping at Target and this and that. So I think celebrities want to hide really bad that they have an orb in their, living room that they bow to, that they drink virgin teen blood to stay young, or whatever kind of weird sex parties they have. They don't want people to know that. They want people to think we're just like you, just with more money. So you can easily fantasize and identify with us and live through us, except we're just doing it bigger than you would do it. We're what you would have if you had the lottery, and they were very big into this. We're the spokespeople for Black love. We're the Black love icon sweethearts.
To make me happy, and it's her responsibility to make her happy, and then we're going to come together and build on that happiness.
Will Smith is continuing to get candid about his marriage to Jada Pinkett Smith. The 53-year-old actor is featured in a new cover story for GQ and discusses the revelations in his upcoming memoir titled Will. The Philadelphia native reveals that Jada was not the only one engaging in other relationships outside of their marriage. He explains, quote, "We have given each other trust and freedom, with the belief that everybody has to find their own way, and marriage for us can't be a prison, and I don't suggest our road for anybody. I don't suggest this road for anybody, but the experiences and the freedoms that we've given one another and the unconditional support, to me, is the highest definition of love."
Anything that I need to make myself happy, I will present that to my wife that I need that to be happy. Divorce is not an option. We're gonna be together. So we're gonna figure out how to be happy.
The Independence Day star also touches on his fantasies involving other women and candidly discusses working with an intimacy coach. Will's greatest desire in the world? To have a harem of girlfriends. Specifically, Will names Misty Copeland and Halle Berry.
People always say, I'm with that Will and Jada thing. Like rappers would talk about, like J. Cole, I'm with the Will and Jada thing. And you totally know this. Any Black person watching this knows this. Black people are very, very conservative. And I don't mean Republican. I mean, very conservative. Like when you talk about things like polygamy, swinging, BDSM, or, alternative religions or whatever, Black people kind of balk at that. They find that to be, quote unquote, like white stuff or weirdo stuff. So my personal theory, I have no proof of this, it's just my theory. I think they had a very strange lifestyle that we can't even fathom because we've never been that rich or involved in all these weird Illuminati-esque circles and rooms they've been in. And I feel like August Alsina said, but for some reason everybody forgot or swept it under the rug, but he said in several interviews that he had Will Smith's blessing. You know, and everyone kind of forgot that. Everyone kind of made him into this kind of like cuck that was cheated on, whatever. I have a feeling they have a beyond open relationship, that they probably were like, you know, some people said, oh, Obama needed to have a black wife if he was ever going to become president. Like black people were not going to identify with like a black guy with a white wife or something. And he kind of made a calculated political idea. I have to have a black wife if I'm going to take it to the next level. I think to some degree they wanted to be the first lady and king of Black America, like the Jackie O and John F. Kennedy of Black America. And they had to keep this image. And I think they probably have so many NDAs out there, so many weird things. Like there were a lot of guys who were talking about, oh, and they're thinking like a middle-class married guy, you know, who's dreaming of a hall pass. Or like, oh, Will Smith, he was so loyal to her. He should have cheated with Margot Robbie. I'm like, you have no idea what these people did. He might have brought Margot Robbie home to Jada Pinkett, and they all decided to say, yeah, you have no idea what these people, like, we can't even pretend with our banal middle-class lives we can fathom what kind of weirdness these people were doing. I think what went wrong was they messed up and picked a blabbermouth with August Alsina, and he was the one person that went off the reservation or plantation and just started blabbing. He fell in love. He did what he wasn't supposed to do, and then they had to scramble. And they were like, okay, do religious people know in America what freaks we are? And we lose this kind of idea of we're just like you, Black America, just richer. We're just like the Hamptons Black people, like, you know, or whatever. Or do we just act like, you know, I got cheated on, or we had a little dalliance and I'm a cuck? And I think Will Smith decided the cuck is the lesser of two evils. You know, at least I still seem like everyone else. I might be able to salvage my career out of this, but if people kind of know how weird my real actual life is, my career is not going to come back. I think everything those two do is for PR and career and image. And I think they thought we can just have this what's that red letter room? What's that show they have on YouTube?
Red Table Talk?
Red Table Talk. I'm messed up all over the place. I think they thought, let's just do this one Red Table Talk, let people get the jokes off, and we'll just sweep it under the rug. And it just hasn't been happening. And this is total speculation. It's a total theory. I have no way of proving this. I have a feeling Jada's been eating shit for a while. First, she had to give up her career, kind of. And they both said this to kind of support his, to become an A-list. So she had her own acting career, and it kind of became a secondary thing to her being Will Smith's wife or whatever. And she probably sacrificed a lot of stuff. She might have sacrificed, you know, a lot of her pride or whatever, her career. And now she's become the bad guy. Like, she's kind of, I think, taking a worse hit than him. At least the cuck is kind of sympathetic. But
well, yeah, for sure. But it's precisely because I think that some of the, very useful pushback that the main narrative has been getting is that, one, she's not the one blabbing about their life all the time. Will Smith had a memoir that came out first, and it has, if you actually look at what's been said, has repeatedly talked about their intimate personal relationship in ways that don't get remarked upon in the same way as when Jada does it. Jada has said in this most recent media tour about her book that this has been completely collaborative, that Will Smith has been in on every part of writing this book, and that none of this is coming as a surprise to him, and that he's been on board. He recently gave some remarks at a Hollywood Reporter book party, I think, where he's basically like, I stand by my woman. I'm never going to leave her.
Our union is a sloppy public experiment. It is a sloppy public experiment in unconditional love. Can you love somebody forever, no matter what. Oh boy was like, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. You know, can you show up and love somebody for the rest of your life, even when you don't agree with them? And there ain't nobody on earth except you, mommy. You, mommy. My mama said it. I almost messed up. You, mom. Nobody showed up for me more than you, mom. Real time. Jada's the best friend I have ever had on this planet. And I am going to show up for her and support her for the rest of my life.
They describe their relationship as brutiful, like a portmanteau of beautiful and brutal. And it's like, that's just what it is.
And what's messed up is even that people still turn into something against her. Like, oh, she's got him so brainwashed. She's such a domineering, henpecking wife. So they want to hate her so bad. No matter what he does, they still find a way to flip it into, yeah, I totally agree. I think she's gotten it way worse and more unfair than he has. I totally agree.
And to your point about her kind of putting his career first, apparently, and this has been, I think this came out maybe in his memoir, that he admitted that she didn't want to get married, that she was kind of bullied into the wedding, and that when you look back at the wedding video, it's clear that she really didn't want to be there. Part of the Cuck narrative is about her relationship with Tupac and people not liking when she talks about how much she loved Tupac. One of the revelations in the book is that when he was in prison, he asked her to marry him, and she's like, it wasn't a real proposal. He was lonely. He was worried that he was going to be abandoned and forgotten when he was in jail, and I know that he would have divorced me when he was out. And I didn't take it seriously.
A lot of people might not know, but he proposed to you while he was in jail.
I talk about this in the book when I go to see him in Rikers, when I wrote about that in the book, and when I had to talk about it, speak my words for the audible version of the book. That was probably one of the more painful parts, seeing him there, the condition that he was in, and having to leave him there. And he was in bad shape. And so when he asked me to get married, he was at Rikers. And I knew at that time that he needed somebody to do time with him, which I was going to do anyway. You didn't have to marry me to do time. Right? I'm here.
I see why we love you.
And then like he needed a rock. He needed, because of our friendship and because of everything we had been through together, he just wanted to feel that solidified foundation, you know? Because I promise you, he would have married me and divorced me as soon as his ass left jail. He would have.
Right.
I'll be real with it.
Right. Because so many people in that position don't have support.
Right.
None at all.
None. You know?
And he got the best.
Right. He was just like, look. And I just think it was the mind state that he was in. You know? He wrote me this long letter. And I think even before Pac went to jail, he was starting to shift in a certain manner.
Good or bad?
Good. Really good. And I think that for him, he just felt like, okay, if I can tether myself, it'll keep me on a trajectory.
But people were like, oh, how could you do this to your husband? Like, we all know you're still obsessed with Tupac, but then to like say that you were going to marry Tupac when your husband of all these years has been standing beside you and had to resign from the academy because he beat up Chris Rock for you. Like, how could you be doing this to him? Like, it's like, like Will Smith, that all of that narrative erases the extent to which Will Smith really pushed for this relationship.
Oh, yeah.
He didn't want to have a prenup. That's I think part of why they're together, because he
Yeah.
said divorce is not an option.
Yeah.
And that also he brought in the baggage of not just having like a boyfriend who was murdered that she loved, which is her situation, but a whole ass wife with whom he had a whole ass kid. And that Jada's done a lot of work to have a blended family that he said he appreciates because he got to have all his kids around with him all the time because she did the work of having a good relationship with his first partner.
And I think he is very image conscious and very success conscious. He's very calculated. Like if you ever hear him talk about his road to becoming a movie star, he had said when he was on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, he sat down with his agent, and the two of them sat down, and this was one of the most cynical, creative discussions I've ever seen anybody describe with pride. But he was like, man, my agent and I sat down and we looked at the last 10 huge blockbuster movies and we picked out the commonalities in all of them. And they all had something like special effects, a certain budget, and a big monster, and one other thing. So they used that to pick his next 6 movies. And if you look at all his movies, they all have that exact thing. Like, so I'm like, it wasn't like, oh, these are passion projects. This is how I feel about my art. He's like, okay, what is the formula to be successful? This is how you make a blockbuster movie. These are, so they had like spreadsheets and all this stuff. And you gotta think, if that's how he thinks about his career, I could totally see him doing that with his personal public image too. Like, okay, I need to have this kind of wife, this kind of family, this kind of thing. And I can see that being very hard to live under. And I'm gonna be more sympathetic to her than I think a lot of people would expect, but I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of those messed up things she says about Tupac is her own passive aggressive way of getting off steam of all the shit she's had to eat. I mean, she's had to basically become the bad guy in this Cuck narrative, and something that I think, like you said, is way more collaborative, and that they both, not just the book, but the whole lifestyle. I think the whole thing was very collaborative. I think he was fine with the August Alsina thing. He freed him up to do what he wanted to do, and he didn't care. And so I think my theory is when Chris Rock made that joke and Jada Pinkett flashed him that look, I think that was Will Smith's guilt, because he knows how bad a public image is due to covering up for his bullshit. And that was kind of his way of kind of saying, you know, making up for something. I don't think it was really about Chris Rock. It was like, I just think that was like the final straw of embarrassment. And he just was like, he felt bad that he put her in this position to become a vehicle of mockery all the time. And I think that's the real reason why he hit Chris Rock. It was like a kind of displaced guilt over where her image is. I really can't prove any of this.
So we do know some more about that because of what she's written in this book. So the book, which was out a few days ago, reveals what she understood to be happening at the Oscars. She said she thought it was a skit until she saw Will walking back toward her, because she says, I knew that I'd seen Will train for like the Muhammad Ali movie. I've seen him in the ring with like heavy hitters, and Chris Rock didn't fall. From her angle, it looked like he had maybe ducked the swing.
Yeah.
And so she didn't realize until she saw Will Smith's face as he was walking back off the stage that it was real. And she took some responsibility. She said, like, she thinks that Chris Rock was frustrated with her because when he was hosting the Oscars, I think back in 2016, she and some others had been putting pressure on folks to like boycott the Oscars because Will Smith had been snubbed for concussion. And she said she should have been more sensitive to the fact that, like, you know, this is a big deal for Chris Rock too, and should have respected that he was coming from a different position and not like tried to make it all about her, and that she should have been more sensitive to that. And that her critique of the Oscars wasn't intended to be a critique of him just because he was hosting. And that's maybe why he then chose to target her again. But also, like, she was not that offended by it. They asked her I think she was asked specifically, were you offended by the joke? And she was like, you know, comedians make jokes and I'm not going to comment on somebody else's craft and how they do it. But it's like not that big a deal.
Hey YouTube, thanks for watching. Just a reminder that this is a podcast. You can catch an extra premium episode every Monday for $5 a month at patreon.com/badfaithpodcast. That's patreon.com/badfaithpodcast for $5 a month, an extra episode every week. Additionally, please do consider liking this video, subscribing to this channel. It helps us out. It helps independent media beat the algorithm. We appreciate you, and as always, keep the faith.